Alexander the Great's conquests transformed the known world, not merely by extending the boundaries of his empire, but by leaving a cultural legacy that would shape the ancient and modern world. His campaigns from Greece to India were not only acts of territorial expansion. They marked the beginning of an era of cultural fusion known as Hellenism. Through military victories, strategic city building, and a visionary approach to governance, Alexander spread Greek language, philosophy, art, and governance across diverse civilizations, blending Eastern and Western cultures in a way that had never been done before. Part 1. The Road to Persia. Alexander's journey began as a continuation of his father King Philip II's ambitions. The Persian Empire, under Darius III, dominated the ancient world, stretching from the Mediterranean to the borders of India. With the powerful Macedonian army and his unwavering ambition, Alexander set his sights on Persia, aiming to topple its rule and create a new order. The Battle of the Granicus River marked his first major victory over Persian forces. It was here that Alexander's tactics and charisma shone, and his army saw him not just as a leader but as an invincible figure. Subsequent battles, including the decisive Battle of Issus, brought him face to face with Darius III and secured Alexander's dominance in Asia Minor. Beyond the military victories, however, Alexander's actions reflected his broader cultural ambitions. As he moved through conquered territories, he adopted local customs, learned about their governance, and started promoting the idea of a multicultural empire. This approach became a precursor to the spread of Hellenism. Rather than imposing Greek culture alone, Alexander embraced the idea of fusion, hoping to unify the East and West. Part 2. The Fall of Persia and the Rise of Cultural Integration. The heart of Alexander's conquests lay in Persia. After defeating Darius at the Battle of Gaugamela, Alexander marched on to Persepolis, the symbolic heart of the Persian Empire. Unlike his previous conquests, Persepolis represented more than a political victory. It was a cultural triumph over the power that had been Greece's greatest rival for centuries. In a controversial decision, he allowed the burning of the city's palace, symbolizing the end of Persian dominance. Yet Alexander did not dismantle Persian culture. Instead, he sought to blend it with Greek customs. He began to dress in Persian attire, appointed Persian satraps, governors, to oversee regions within his empire, and promoted intermarriage between Macedonians and Persians. His vision was clear. He wanted a single empire that integrated the strengths of both cultures. By establishing Greek-style cities and encouraging the spread of the Greek language, he laid the groundwork for Hellenism, a cultural shift that would flourish long after his death. Part 3. Egypt and the Foundation of Alexandria. Alexander's campaign in Egypt marked a turning point in his vision of empire. The Egyptians welcomed him as a liberator, freeing them from the rule of Persian satraps, and they declared him pharaoh. He founded the city of Alexandria at the Nile Delta, which he envisioned as a center for trade, learning, and cultural exchange. Unlike many Greek cities, Alexandria was strategically positioned to bridge the East and the West. Alexandria's influence as a hub of Hellenistic culture would endure for centuries, housing the Great Library, which attracted scholars from across the ancient world. Greek, Egyptian, and later Roman influences mixed in Alexandria, creating a city that epitomized the blend of ideas and cultural exchange that Alexander had envisioned. Here, the sciences, philosophy, medicine, and arts thrived, with Greek, Egyptian, and other cultural influences converging to produce groundbreaking developments. Part 4. India and the Quest for Unity. After solidifying his hold on Persia and Egypt, Alexander pushed his army into India, driven by a desire to see the ends of the known world. India proved to be one of his most challenging campaigns, both in terms of climate and resistance. The Battle of the Hydaspes against King Porus was a hard-won victory that introduced Alexander to a new world of thought and customs. In India, Alexander encountered gymnosophists, philosophers who practiced asceticism and preached ideals vastly different from those of the Greeks. Their teachings on detachment and inner peace made a deep impression on him, prompting reflections on his own ambitions. Although he would continue his campaign, his time in India planted the seeds of cultural curiosity and exchange. He founded new cities and introduced Greek governance, but also began to respect and integrate elements of Indian philosophy. Egypt, the birth of Alexandria and the spread of Greek thought. In Egypt, Alexander's approach to cultural integration reached new heights. Recognized as a liberator from Persian rule, Alexander was quickly accepted as pharaoh and even hailed as the son of the god Ammonius. This divine recognition aligned with Alexander's self-image as a destined ruler, adding a spiritual dimension to his authority. One of Alexander's most enduring legacies in Egypt was the founding of Alexandria, a city that would become a beacon of Hellenistic culture. Strategically located along the Mediterranean coast, Alexandria was designed as a cultural and intellectual center where Greek and Egyptian influences would meet. Greek scholars, artists, philosophers, and scientists flocked to the city, creating a vibrant hub of knowledge and innovation. The Library of Alexandria, established after Alexander's death, became a symbol of this cultural synthesis. Housing texts from across the ancient world, it preserved Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and Indian knowledge, embodying Alexander's dream of a united cultural landscape. Through Alexandria, Greek philosophy, science, and literature found new audiences, and Egyptian mythology and knowledge permeated Greek intellectual life. Alexandria became the epitome of Hellenistic culture, a place where Greek rationalism met Eastern mysticism, and where scientific inquiry flourished alongside spiritual practices. India, a meeting of philosophies. Alexander's campaign extended into the Indian subcontinent, where he encountered yet another distinct and profound culture. India introduced Alexander to a worldview steeped in philosophical diversity, from the Brahmanical traditions to the ascetic practices of the gymnosophists, naked philosophers. These Indian sages espoused values of simplicity, renunciation, and inner peace, concepts that resonated deeply with Alexander, even if they conflicted with his ambition-driven lifestyle. The Battle of the Hydaspes, fought against King Porus, became legendary not only for its intensity but for Alexander's deep respect for his opponent. After defeating Porus, Alexander reinstated him as ruler of his own kingdom, recognizing the strength and resilience of the Indian people. This respect for Indian leaders and ideas demonstrated Alexander's evolving philosophy of governance, a willingness to appreciate and incorporate the wisdom of other cultures. Although Alexander's soldiers eventually refused to march further east, their experiences in India left a lasting imprint on the Hellenistic world. Greek and Indian art, architecture, and philosophy began to merge, particularly through the rise of Gandhara art, a distinctive style that combined Greek realism with Indian spirituality. This cultural synthesis persisted long after Alexander's death, as ideas and artistic motifs traveled back along his routes, infusing Greek culture with new depth and diversity. The cities of Alexander, hubs of Hellenistic culture. One of the most significant ways Alexander facilitated the spread of Hellenism was through the establishment of cities across his empire. These cities, often named Alexandria, served as administrative centers and hubs of Greek culture in foreign lands. They were not just military outposts but thriving urban centers that attracted merchants, artisans, scholars, and philosophers from various backgrounds. Each Alexandria, whether in Egypt, Mesopotamia, or Central Asia, embodied Alexander's vision of a culturally blended world. Greek became the lingua franca, facilitating trade and communication across regions that had once been divided by language and custom. Greek temples, theaters, and gymnasiums were built alongside local structures, creating spaces where Greek and indigenous cultural practices could coexist. These cities became melting pots of Hellenistic culture, spreading Greek art, philosophy, and science to regions that had never before encountered them. At the same time, these cities absorbed the cultural traditions of their surroundings, leading to the unique fusion of Greek and local elements that characterized the Hellenistic age. The philosophical and scientific legacy of Hellenism. The spread of Hellenism under Alexander laid the groundwork for an intellectual renaissance. Greek philosophy, particularly the works of Plato and Aristotle, became accessible to new audiences and mingled with Eastern philosophies, leading to the emergence of new schools of thought. Stoicism and Epicureanism, for example, flourished in the Hellenistic world, offering new perspectives on ethics, the nature of happiness and human purpose. Science and mathematics also thrived in the Hellenistic period. In Alexandria, the mathematician Euclid wrote Elements, a foundational text in geometry, while Archimedes made groundbreaking contributions to physics and engineering. Astronomy, medicine, and geography advanced rapidly as Greek scholars incorporated knowledge from Egypt, Babylon, and India. This cross-pollination of ideas created an intellectual environment that would influence Western thought for centuries. The scientific and philosophical advancements of the Hellenistic period laid the foundations for later developments in the Roman Empire and even the Renaissance.